Promotional consideration paid for by the Comic Corps.
Welcome to Dru Manchu's Comic Book Reviews. I'm your host, Dru Manchu, and today we're going to be taking a look at House of X, number 3. Okay guys, Jonathan Hickman's House of X and Powers of 10 combined mini-series event Dawn of X is what he's calling it. It's absolutely mind-blowing. It's going to be 12 issues in total. This is the third issue of the second series that started the whole thing off, but the reading order is all over the place. Just know that we're halfway home. I'm not going to go into a huge recap of what happened in House of X and Powers of 10 prior to this. I've done 3 other videos. You guys can check those out. There should be a card popping up right about now that'll let you know where you can find those videos. So check those out. I started a whole new playlist with just the House of X and Powers of 10 videos. Get caught up, figure out where we're going, and maybe I'll do a whole big recap video on everything before the next issue comes out. The book starts off on Krakoa with Cyclops telling Xavier and Magneto that it's done. He's assembled a team, he's designed the mission, they're getting ready to go and take out the Mother Mold. He says that everybody understands the stakes and the risks, and they all embrace the opportunity to basically die for their country. Xavier remarks that he has a brave face and that he knows that his mind is racing about thoughts of his own death. Xavier says that basically he knows that he has doubts and that's natural, and he's afraid, and that is also natural because what he's about to do is a very, very dangerous thing. But he says he's proud of him and that to put his fears aside, he's not going to let him die because he won't let the idea of him die. So basically he's asking him to be a martyr, which is very disturbing when you look at Xavier the way he's been framed so far in House of X, kind of like a cult leader more than a diplomatic leader. So Cyclops assembles his team and he has them all ready to go. He's going over the mission with them, how they're going to infiltrate Orcas, and he also lets them know that they won't be bringing any of the Krakoan flowers with them, and they have to do this old school. The team doesn't really understand, for the most part, why they wouldn't bring the Krakoan plant with them as a way to get back in an emergency situation. But Monet tells them that they're only thinking of their success. What if they fail? What if the Krakoan plant falls into the hands of Orcas? That then gives Orcas the ability to study it and figure out exactly how to get to Krakoa, and that is a huge security risk for the mutants. Summers completely agrees with Monet and says, "No plants, everybody. Got it? I'm looking at you, Mystique." And that's a little bit of foreshadowing, a little bit heavy-handed foreshadowing by Jonathan Hickman. She says that her ears work, but we all know how Mystique rolls. Always looking out for number 1. Cyclops wants to keep the casualties low on this mission, and that's just to remind you that these are the good guys here. Wolverine then basically says that anybody who would build a robot to exterminate a species can't be an innocent bystander in all this, so I'm kind of with Wolverine on this one. You should go in and hack those humans up as quickly as possible. Make sure you get in and out and do the job. Then we're taken to Project Achilles, which is a supermax prison for supervillains, and they have an on-site judicial system here, and we're in the middle of a trial. This is supervillain processing, and who's being processed? None other than Victor Creed, Sabretooth. He's been given a very, very flimsy defense from a public defender, and it looks like he's just going to plead guilty to having bad manners, spitting on the floor in the courtroom. He basically says that these restraints are just for show. If he really wanted to, he could break out of them and murder them all, and there's nothing that they could do about it. And he's just behaving himself at the moment. He takes a whiff of the air and he gets a hint of jasmine, looks over at his lawyer and says, "Guess what, buddy? That means you're fired." And into the courtroom saunters the White Queen, flanked by 2 of the Stepford Cuckoos. She's there to exercise Sabretooth's diplomatic immunity, which he has being a resident of Krakoa. This is not exactly what you'd expect from the heroes. The staff doesn't seem to like it, but there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. The White Queen tells them it's a brave new world, and they better get used to it. This brings us to the Orcas Forge, where the Mother Mold is being held and completed. The Omega Sentinel is having a conversation with Dr. Gregor about humanity's panic, and basically the stupidity of the idea that they can control this AI and that eventually it will destroy humanity as much as it will destroy the mutants. They remember where the mutants come from, and that's humanity. The failsafe is these control collars that will push the Mother Mold into the sun if things go south, and that's kind of a flimsy idea, but it also gives our X-Men here an opportunity to push this thing into the sun and be done with it. But this conversation is cut short by the arrival of the X-Men, which sends everybody on the station into high alert. They've launched countermeasures and there are all kinds of Sentinels on the way, but they're not going to get there in time, so they need to basically deal with the X-Men once they've boarded. The X-Men know about these ejection collars. There should be 4 of them. They should be able to get in and get out and get it over with quickly, and they send Kurt in for recon. Just a few bamfs later, and Karima and Kurt are face to face. Kurt accuses her of choosing sides, and she throws some shade right back at him before he bamfs out of sight. Now they know that the X-Men are coming. They know that they have a teleporter. They know that it's Nightcrawler. But Kurt also knows that they have an Omega Sentinel on board. They extend the breaching collar and they're going to go right through the hull. This is good news and bad news for Erasmus. Good news because he knows exactly where they're coming. Bad news is because it's right where they need to be in order to hit those ejection collars quickly. He has no choice but to sacrifice himself as a suicide bomber. He pulls the grenade and he blows himself and the Blackbird completely apart. So we're at the halfway point here in Hickman's Dawn of X epic story, and let me tell you, this issue was not nearly as good or as twisty-turny as I expected it to be. Kind of very straightforward storytelling up until the explosion. I do not think that these X-Men are dead. They had Kurt on board. They're going to be teleported into this facility. It's like she said, very linear plan for a very non-linear foe. The X-Men know what's going to happen. They've expected this, and we're going to get more with these characters. I don't think that this is the end of the X-Men just because this strike team was obliterated in an explosion. They weren't on panel as being in that ship at the time. So hey man, we'll see what happens, but I feel it's kind of a cheap pop to get us to next week. The only one in the series so far. It's been really, really, really good. Hickman gives us a lot between the pages in these infographics as well. The Krakoan language is revealed upon arriving for the first time to the mutant nation state of Krakoa. They are given this this key, so now you can read all of the hidden messages in your other comics. If you didn't take the time to look that up online, it's been out for quite some time, but they've released the key, so that's pretty cool. We also get an in-depth look at how the Omega Sentinel process takes over the human body, the 8 steps in which it takes for the Nano Sentinels to change you completely from a human being to an Omega Sentinel. We also get an in-depth look at Project Achilles and how that works, and how Emma Frost was able to access the facility through the State Department. We also get a list of the progressions from Machines, the Sentinels, the Alpha Sentinels, all the way through the Omega Sentinels, up to the Nimrods. So this is a lot of info dump from Jonathan Hickman. But most importantly, Hickman gives us the flow chart on how this all breaks down timeline-wise within House of X. Moira X has concluded that even though an AI is inevitable, a Nimrod is not. And this starts off the process of her trying to alter the world to avoid the Nimrod. It takes us through Apocalypse, it takes us through year 100, and the 9th life of Moira X. This brings us to House of X number 1, all the way to where we are now in House of X number 3. So 6 issues in, halfway through the book, and we finally know where we are and which direction we're going, and the first mission is a failure. Bam. What are we going to do now? To be honest, that gets me more hyped for the second half of this story than a big twist or a big reveal would in any other sense. I think that These X-Men are not done. We will see more going forward with this team. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But hey man, we're going to see how it shakes out. The art has maintained a high level. Pepe Larraz is doing a great job on pencils. The colors really pop. I like some of the ideas in here. The blackbird flying away from the cocoon plant on the blue area of the moon is one of the coolest panels here. I really dig that. And the design here with the infographics just maintains. It's just a really cool deal. I've never been as excited for pages without pictures in my comics before. And hey man, I'm all about these. Hickman is doing a great job keeping us interested and letting us know a little bit about everything as he builds this story up. House of X number 3 gets a 4 out of 5. Not quite up to the level of oh my god moments in the story that we've gotten the past few issues, but still a really solid entry, and I'm ready for the second half of this saga. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell. That way you know anytime the Comic Corps is going live. Alternatively, if you'd like to support us monetarily, you can buy some of our Comic Corps t-shirts. They're available on our TeePublic store. Click the link in the description below, or just go to the TeePublic website, type in Comic Corps, and then shop till you drop. Do you have a hot date coming up? Maybe a job interview? We're putting up new designs all the time. You can check out this Dru Manchu Bebe t-shirt. Impress your friends, your neighbors, and potential employers with your style. They're available in a plethora of different colors. Check the link in the description below. Basically, he's sending Cyclops off to be a...
Barney, shut the f*** up!